Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Resilience is Your Superpower. I'm your host, Mio Santana, the owner and founder of Divine Journey, a transformational program that focuses on supporting men and women in transforming their lives to live a more self-expressed, fully evolved existence. And I'm super excited to have our guest here today. The reason why I created this program is because I myself was going through a basically a rebranding of my self-love program that I have. It's an 8-week program for women just focused on self-love, an amazing program. And we were doing a rebranding and I was trying to figure out what to name the program. And I was reflecting back on my own experience in transformation, over 20 years of experience, some of which where I met our guest today. And I remember doing a bunch of like personality tests and identity tests and different things to find out who I was. And one of the things that some of those tests asks you is to ask like 5 people around you, what are your strongest traits? What are your personality traits? Different things like that. And every time I asked that question, people would get back to me and say that I was resilient, that they know me as a resilient person. And that always stayed with me. And so while I was thinking about the name for the program, I thought to myself, resilience. And I started reflecting on the women who have taken the program. And then I realized that the women who have taken the program are all resilient themselves. They all carry the same trait. And I realized it just like dawned on me at that moment. I was like, this is it. This is the name of the program. So it's Resilience, a breakthrough journey to self-love. It starts on June 8th. And so what I did was I brought together a bunch of women, amazing women doing things around the planet that inspire me, that their stories inspire me. And I invited them to come on and share some time with me to talk about their stories and the things that they had to overcome to get to where they are today, so that maybe it might help in shedding some light for you on your own journey and support you in overcoming any obstacles that you might be experiencing. So I'm super grateful and honored to be here with my old friend Nui, who her actual name is Kealohanui Browning. You have to excuse me. It's a beautiful Hawaiian name that means big love, and she is a realtor at a Hawaii Life real estate brokers company, where she is part of a team called Nakanishi. She works with her mom and a woman named Denise Nakanishi, and she practices real estate on the Big Island of Hawaii and has been doing real estate for 11 years. She has both a bachelor's in communications and sciences and disorders and an MBA from the University of Florida. She's also a breast cancer survivor and a self-proclaimed nerd, foodie, and Disney lover. We're so excited to have Nui here today with us. Nui, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Did
How
you say
are you today?
it's my mom?
What? Oh, Denise is your mom.
Yes.
Oh, fabulous, fabulous. Well, sending her love and light while we do this interview. How are you doing today?
Doing good. Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Amazing, amazing to have you. Thank you so much for coming on. So, you know, I always like to preface the conversation with, talking about what is resilience, right? Because a lot of people, it's a term that gets thrown around a lot. And a lot of people end up asking me, like, what does it even mean? And when we're talking about resilience, resilient people really have the ability of handling stress, handling failure, rejection, criticism, internal criticism as well as external, and also to handle what life throws at you in general. And so resilient people tend to be the ones that know that stress happens and they learned how to expect it and manage it. Resilient people also possess a trait that I really love, which is called grit. And grit embodies the qualities of courageousness, conscientiousness, and endurance, which are all things that I'm sure that you have demonstrated in your journey, Nui, which we're about to dive into. So tell us a little bit about your journey. How did you get to where you are today? Just give us a little bit of background about you so that the audience knows who you are.
Um. Well, I I grew up in Hawaii. And both my parents are in the military. That's not why we ended up in Hawaii. My dad was part Hawaiian, and so he moved us back home when I was about 5 or 6. Home being Hawaii. And he was actually a sniper in the military, so he had killed a lot of people and um, seen a lot of really crazy things, and so I think he had post-traumatic stress disorder. So he would have outbursts, and you wouldn't really know what would trigger his anger. Um, he was abusive, so that's kind of how my childhood started off. Um, and when I was younger, we didn't have a lot of money either. I, it was just very, life was very, um, there's not a lot of consistency with day to day life. And, you know, like we lost our house at one point, we lost our car at one point. My dad would leave and not come back for long periods of time.
Mm,
So it was a struggle, just trying to get by as a kid and not, you know, you're so worried about what everyone else is thinking about you as a child, and to have that in your home life, it's very stressful because have a lot you don't have anyone to build you up when you go out there before you go out into the world. So I think you go home and you're getting beaten down, and then you go out into the world when the world just beats you down inevitably. So um eventually I had to figure out how to build myself up on my own, which is
mm,
where I found you in that journey of trying to figure out, okay, I can't really, not that people are not wanting to be there for you, but you can't really rely on other people to give you the confidence or love that you need to conquer the things that you'd like to do in your life. Um,
absolutely. It's an internal game. I always, with all my clients and everyone I come in contact with, it's like you're absolutely right. There's nothing external that will be able to fill you up. You need to be able to fill your own cup. And then from there, when your cup runneth over, give from that overflow. And that way you're full. And then you can give even more. But if you're empty and you're trying to reach outside yourself and fill yourself up with so many different things, material things, this, that, nothing will ever fill you up because it needs to come from within. So that's absolutely right. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. So continue. I don't want to interrupt.
but I don't know exactly. So I mean, it went on. My life was kind of like that for a while, where I was like, just struggling to prove that I was worthy of something, I guess.
Mhm.
Um, so I ended up in a lot of situations that I didn't really, that I'm not proud of today, you know. Um, but I don't necessarily regret them either. It's just when you when you don't have nice thoughts in your head about who you are, you just kind of allow the world to do what it will with you.
Mhm.
Um, and that's what happened in a lot of situations. I found myself in abusive relationships, both physically and emotionally abusive relationships, and um, you know, and so those things kind of triggered me looking deeper, because it's like, okay, the relationships are not working out. That's not giving me the worth that I need to go out into the world and be a, I don't know how to verbalize it
To be
necessarily.
fully self-expressed.
Yeah, and you know, when you're being fully self-expressed, and I don't even know if I'm fully there yet, but when you, because I don't know if you're ever fully there either. It's like, okay, you get to this level, and then you're like, whoa, this feels so good. Like, now I want to get to this level and this level. And so you just have to keep recreating it and recreating it. But
Absolutely.
I lost my train of thought. I was saying,
Well, something that came up when you were saying that is that like and it happened to me and it happens to a lot of us when we're in a journey of resilience is that I always say that I felt like my life was living me and I wasn't living my life.
yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So I felt kind of like I was just being thrown all over the place, like no control of
Yeah, like a
anything.
ping
And
pong.
yeah, and when you hear people say like you can control your life, you're like, what?
Yeah, you're like, yeah, right.
Yeah, like
Because when you're in it, you're like, yeah, no.
when they talk to you about your thoughts and how those can control, like how you can control the things that happen to you with the thoughts that you think, and you're like, you're just a little crazy right now. Like I don't see how that works. But so for some reason I was like, well, if everybody keeps telling me this, that you can change your life with the thoughts in your head, then something must be right about that. So I started
Mm-hmm.
like listening to those YouTubes that are just like affirmations over and over and over. And
Mm-hmm.
I would just walk with them everywhere I went. And I remember sitting in Starbucks and like um, doing some stuff on the computer, just like listening to those affirmations over and over. But like inside, I was like in so much pain and just like wanting so badly to believe the things that were being played in that video, but
Mm-hmm.
I just wasn't in line with them yet. But after doing that for a while, so like little things, there's little shifts along the way that are like, okay, well, um, need to change. You find other things when you start researching for ways to fill your cup. They start coming to you. So
When you
it's
open
not.
yourself up, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It just starts to come, and at first it's really hard to trust those things will continue coming, but after a while you're able to just accept what's happening, and um and the thoughts in your head will start shifting to a have faith that this situation is not permanent, and b like find the good in the situation. What's the lesson here for me to learn? Where's the growth for me? And then you start searching for that instead of even the feeling good. And but that does feel good.
Right,
Like
right.
the search feels good when you start.
When you start putting the pieces together,
Yeah,
it's like a
and
treasure hunt.
yeah, 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 and when you're young, you're always like, I want to get over here and I want to get over there now, and it's like I am not there now. I don't see how I'm gonna get there now. It That thing seems so far off, and then you just give up. And it's part of the fun of it, and it's so cliche, but it's so true. Is okay. There's like little steps to get to that place, and all of those little steps are so neat if you let them be. If you are not focused on like that thing over there, you can still have that goal. Like that's a thing I want to get. But if you're so focused over there and you're like, oh, this cool thing happened to me, but you don't even realize that that thing happened because you're so busy over there. Oh, that didn't happen yet. It's always frustrating. Like everything is just frustrating.
That's what tends to happen, right? When we're on this journey of discovery, oftentimes we think that there's a destination and we're always going for that destination. Like when we get there, we'll be happy, right? When I get there, things will be fine. When I do this, when I get that. And what ends up happening is that every time we get there, we're still not happy. And then we're like, okay, we got to get somewhere else. And we move the goal line always moves forward and forward and
Yeah.
forward. And yet we're still unhappy and unhappy and unhappy. And it's because until we're able to turn that around and go inward and find like that saying that says it's not the destination, it's the journey, like to be in love with the journey, to be in love with yourself now and fulfilled now, no matter what the destination is. And then like you said, it becomes fun, it becomes like a game. You're like, oh, okay, I got this now, let me do this, let me add this, or let me tweak this, and then you start exploring more versus trying to just survive.
Yeah, no, totally. It's like totally like exploration, totally.
Yeah. So, Nui, tell us, what do you think? What are some of the things you had to overcome? You mentioned some of the things in your childhood, some of the things you had to overcome to be where you are today. You're a realtor now. You overcame, your journey with cancer. Maybe that was something huge that you had to overcome. So, walk us through really what was it for you that you had to overcome to get to where you are today, mentally, physically, emotionally.
Um, it was mostly mental because
Mm-hmm.
like, there are things that happen in your life, like my abusive dad, my abusive boyfriends, my like things getting taken away because we didn't have money as a child, thing being mortified in certain situations where people just left me and I because of a rumor.
Mm-hmm.
I got outcasted at one point in my life because someone started a rumor, and um all of those events kind of just weighed down on me because I was making them mean something about who I was as a person, rather than saying, okay, well, that's an event that happened into my life, but that isn't that doesn't have anything to do with who I am as a soul or a contribution to the universe. Like it's that is a way, those experiences are the way that you can be a contribution to the universe. And so just that like little shift of thinking, like, okay, this sucks right now, but like where's the gift in this? And I honestly I started meditating. Like we did those programs together, and
Back in
that
the
was
day,
very
yeah.
yeah, that was very helpful because it made me aware that there's like this thing in my head that's running me, but it still didn't. There's something missing with it.
Right.
So um, I actually got really depressed while I was living in Miami, and um, I read this book called Book of Joy. It's the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Tutu, and they talk a lot about meditation in there, and just and they compare like Buddhism to Christianity to science, and there's so many parallels, and just realizing that like we all really kind of think the same. It's but we're just fighting against each other so much because the delivery of our messages are not the same. But underneath, it's like, hey, everybody is really kind of the same, and
Mm-hmm.
um,
Everyone's
so
trying to figure it out.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, there's a part where he talks about the Dalai Lama in that book. He talks about not not just being a human with people, like not no matter who he meets, even like the president wants somebody, or some big, I don't know, Brad Pitt, who
Uh-huh.
everyone's a human. They don't want to be treated like they don't always want to be treated like they're up here on this pedestal, so they just want you to be with them. And when he pointed that out, I was like, yeah, that's true. And I would get so nervous being around people sometimes, and just hearing that was another big shift for me, because it was like, I don't need to be nervous with people. Like, I am worthy to be with anyone, and um, that person actually wants me to be just how I am with them, because it makes other people uncomfortable when you. Then they have all these things they have to live up to at that point, like, oh gosh, you just put me up here, and now I'm struggling with my own stuff inside. But so I'm kind of going off on a tangent. So that book really kind of changed my life, and I started meditating. And when I started meditating, it was like I started using the Headspace app,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
and so that really, because I had tried before, but I just couldn't do it. But it really kind of walks you into like how to do it, and how to relax into it. And I remember like a few weeks into it, taking my dog for a walk and looking at the trees, and I'm like, everything looks like it's a different color. Like everything was so much brighter. I'm getting chicken skin. That's what we say here in Hawaii, chicken skin. But
Like
yeah,
chills.
yeah,
Yeah.
goosebumps, and just seeing the world so differently, you know. And so that's really what shifted. And then shortly after that, I got cancer. I found out I had cancer, um, and I really think that the meditation made all the difference for during my cancer process, because
Wow.
when you're able to like calm down about, oh, what if this happens, and what if that happens, and what if this happens, and those things are not constantly in your head, and you're just able to accept what the world is bringing to you, and like it's it's just kind of magical.
Yeah.
And so the cancer process was like, it sounds so strange, but it was enjoyable. Like I was like finding happiness all over the place, you know, like I was laying in bed and I was so sick, and like from chemo, there was this one chemo that it was on, and it was just like it was called the Red Devil. And
Mm.
it would make me so nauseous almost a second after I would leave the doctor's office. And for like 5 days, I would just be laying in bed each time I got that treatment. And um, I remember my boyfriend at the time, he would try to feed me because he's like trying to make sure I was healthy and things. And
Yeah.
it's like he'll come in with this plate of food and your smell is heightened. A lot of people say it's like being pregnant. I don't know. I don't
Mm.
know. But you know, women describe that, and I could just smell everything, and everything just grossed me out. Everything tasted disgusting.
Hmm.
Um and I felt so just nauseous laying there, and he would like come with his food and like bang into the bed, and I'm like, first of all, you have food that is really not smelling good to me right now. And just the movement of the bed shaking, I was
Was painful.
uh,
Yeah.
so I remember just saying, you know what, this is a time to try my meditation. And so I would just lay there curled in a ball and like breathe in and breathe out. And I would do that for like days in a row, just watching my breath go in and out, and like feeling it go in and out, and just being like, whoa, even your breath is like, the fact that you're able to do that is so neat. And
Yes.
the five, like each time I was sick for like 5 days, and those days would just fly by somehow. Like I would feel the pain of it. Like I would feel sick. I would like my neighbors would play this loud music. I'm like, oh my gosh, ah. But
Hmm.
at the same time, it was like it's such a weird parallel, because you can be experiencing all of that, but then also at the same time be like, holy cow, this is like the best thing I've ever experienced on my life in my life. So that was a really,
Wow. So you were able to access a meditative state through the process of your chemo and your cancer treatment.
yeah. Thank you
Wow.
for putting that into words. Yes.
That's
Yeah.
incredible. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's so walk us through your journey with that. So you were diagnosed with cancer, you know, what was that like to for you to hear that news, and how did you overcome that?
It was, the news wasn't shocking to me. To be honest, it was really strange, because when you think about like, oh, what if I get cancer, you're like, oh my gosh, that's the worst thing that could ever happen to me is getting cancer. You know, that's most people's idea of it. And
Hmm.
oh my gosh, I'm gonna die is like the first thought that I hear from a lot of people, is like,
Yeah.
that's doctor thought. And that thought crossed my mind. I remember sitting and waiting for my results, and it was Thanksgiving weekend. So I was like, I had to wait and go to this Thanksgiving thing, like wondering, am I going to be here next year with my family for Thanksgiving? And so
Wow.
that was kind of more, that hurt worse than actually hearing the result of it.
The
And
not knowing was worse than knowing. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
when he told me, I just kind of he called me on the phone, and it was Sunday, which was really nice of him. I guess that's when he got the results back. And he was like, he initially told me I was too young for cancer. And I had a lot of doctors tell me that actually, but that he didn't think it was going to be, but he was going to test me anyway. And which I'm thankful that he did that, because some doctors just won't. And and he's like, I'm sorry that I said that it might not be, and it is. And he's like, no need to be sorry. I wasn't even, it didn't, it didn't phase me. Like, I didn't have a breakdown. I felt like I end up consoling the doctor, like, like, okay, well, it's not your fault that I have cancer. And so I think that meditation kind of slowed down my thought process to think clearly, like I wasn't
Uh-huh.
mad with him for anything. I wasn't mad at the situation. I just said, okay, what are we gonna do this with this this news? And I decided, because I've always been very shy growing up, but um and not wanting to show people who I was, because I'd been so ashamed of myself my whole life. So I decided, you know what, I'm gonna go bald. And I just had moved home to Hawaii, and I'm from a small town. And I'm like, I am gonna have to go out into the world every day with no hair. And people are, I know so many people, they're gonna be staring at me, wondering what is wrong with me. And so I might as well just tell the world what's happening with me, and just enjoy it. So I started doing things to mentally prepare. I cut my hair up, I dyed it all kinds of dyed it bright pink, and just to practice, going out looking different.
Uh-huh.
And just that whole thing about getting out of your comfort zone, it really makes a difference. And then I started sharing what was happening with myself, and the emotions that I was feeling, because it's not like you don't have emotions, you do. But when you start meditating, and I guess you don't even really have to start meditating, but just when you have this, like, when you have a knowing that you can choose another thought,
Mm-hmm.
it makes everything so different
When
for you.
you, yeah, when you begin to become the observer of what's
Mm-hmm.
happening versus allowing what's happening to run you. That's absolutely true. That's so good. And you said something about the comfort zone, and that's a huge teaching because magic happens when you're outside of your comfort zone,
Yeah.
when you're
And
able to expand that.
yeah, but it's funny, that's a whole another thing about like being here and then wanting to be over there, because even with the comfort zone, like, people will tell you to do like this crazy outlandish thing to get out of your comfort zone, and you're like, no, I'm not doing that. Like, that is bonkers. And it's like, well, you don't have to do that crazy outlandish thing off the bat. Like, if you're scared of heights, like, jump off a 2 foot thing.
Right, right.
Like, go from there. not
Yeah.
not an 80-foot cliff. Like, so just like cutting off my hair was a big deal for me. And I only cut it to here, I think, the first time. And so it wasn't even too crazy, but it changed everything.
Hmm.
Like,
You took your power back.
yeah. And I
Yeah.
remember running into someone in the store with pink hair, and he was like looking at me like I'd gone bonkers. And I remember just like taking a breath and being like, oh yeah, I have pink hair. And
You're like, oh yeah, I forgot.
that's not normal for me.
Yeah.
And just telling myself like it's okay, like you know.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what the cancer was actually a benefit to my
Mm-hmm.
life in a
Mm-hmm.
strange way.
It's you saw the silver lining. And so how did you finally overcome it? Like how did you you know, when you what was the after going through the treatment and everything, when did you start to see the light at the end of the tunnel and when did you feel that you were going to recover like recuperate fully?
Well, I never really felt like I was gonna die.
Okay.
And I remember putting in my when I went to go, because they tell you you have cancer, but they don't tell you what type or how serious it is and all of that. And I remember before the doctor told me I had cancer, I was like, I mean, how serious it was. I was like, I don't care how serious it is, but I don't want you to tell me how long I have to live. Like, do not do that.
Uh-huh.
And he was like, don't worry, I'm not going to do that to you. And I was stage 2, grade 3, which is very rapid growing,
Mhm.
but they caught it at stage 2, so that was good. Um, so I think just not allowing the thoughts in
Uh-huh.
was super helpful. And I mean, throughout the process, I don't have my real breast anymore. I have huge scars across. I don't have my real nipples anymore. In like that was a little struggle because I'm not married. I broke up with my boyfriend during this whole thing. Not that he's not a great guy. It just that it wasn't. I also found out that that relationship just wasn't for me. Um, through just starting to care more for myself, and so there's like thoughts that who's gonna want this scarred up person with weird nipples, and then you just have to reframe it. It's all like everything is just reframing, and so after that, and my sister got diagnosed, and um,
Wow.
that was actually way harder than my own diagnosis, and that was a whole nother lesson because so you don't you when it was me, I felt like I had control somewhat because I knew it was happening in my head. But when it's somebody else that you love, you want to have control of them so bad, but you can't. You just don't. It's not possible. And just allowing her, I wanted to tell, like, just pour everything that I did, like
Mhm.
this really helped me, and that really helped me, and this really helped me. And it's like, that's not helpful to people because it's like they are in their own heads about whatever it is that they're in their heads about. And so you telling them what worked for you is not like not just sharing but like pressing it in. Like I would share, but like a lot of people want to like press in
Mhm.
what they did, and not doing it is doing that is very hard. um and so she ended up getting very sick, and she ended up in the hospital blind and deaf, and watching her like watching that happen so quickly. It happened. She got diagnosed and passed away within 9 months. And watching that whole process was just so hard. Like
Wow.
I
Yeah.
would go on jogs every morning, and I would just be bawling, jogging down the road. And it's like at that point, you just have to like trust that whatever is happening is supposed to happen, and trust her. I had to trust her that she knew what was best for her as also. And if not being here is what was best, then I had to trust that. And um, so that was, and also watching everybody else around me how they were coping. with things was another big lesson because I didn't agree with some of the ways that people were being like. I wanted to be like, play this positive affirmation for her night and day, like tell her good things, do this, do that. But some people were like freaking out around her, and I wanted to tell them, don't freak out around her, like
Yeah.
that's not helpful. But it's like you you don't have control of them, and
Right.
that just causes even more chaos when you're trying to have control. So would I eventually just decided I just need to let everybody be however they want to be, and I'm going to be however I need to be. And then when I did that, it like I felt so much better, and I was able to just let the process happen and again find like little beautiful things in it. Um, and I think that that has really been a driving factor for me lately because she has kids, and I don't want there's nothing more I want in this world than to have her kids be happy even though they lost their mom at such a young age, because there's so many neat things to go see and do in this life. Like you it hurts, like there's that pain there, it's like so painful, but
Yeah.
you can live with that pain and actually like experience it as this something, this deep love, and it's so beautiful, and and you can feel it, and it hurts, but you look outside and there's like butterflies flying around and there you go places and there's like the most delicious food and there's like the cutest puppies and there's just like so many nice things just outside your back door. You live in a garden, like it's just so I have to really embody that, knowing that I have to embody that, and I can be sad and but I can also be in love with everything around me, So
Yes.
um that was that's where I am now.
Wow. Yeah.
So
That's
I don't
amazing.
know whether that, I mean, it does translate into my work because I enjoy work so much more, but I don't know that this realtor is me. It's just something I do every day, but like going outside and being enjoying everything is really the destination because when you are able to do that, you can show other people how to do that. And like, wouldn't it be cool if everybody just went around like enjoying everything, no
Yeah.
matter what was happening?
Yeah. I
So
love what you said. We live in a garden. Like, even those of us that live in cities, like you go outside and you can find beauty. You can find a park or a natural or a lake or something that has natural beauty and the animals are always there and you can have that moment of divinity at any chance.
even the buildings, though, they're like, it's like someone thought about how to make this concrete on the ground. Like, how in the world did they do that? How did somebody build this thing that's like
A
really,
million stories high.
yeah,
Yeah.
like that is so neat. And just
Yeah.
asking yourself those kinds of questions, like, wow, just marveling at everything, no matter what's
Yes.
in front of you, is just really where all of that brought me to is like, wow.
Yeah, I love, that's so beautiful, Nui, because that's something that I share a lot with people, which is, we are such divinely created beings. We are divinely created. Like, we went from a little sperm and an egg, and then you get like this amazing mind, this brain that we have, this heart that pumps, like our skin, our microfascia that keeps all of our body together, our organs, all of this was divinely created. And so, do you think that we would have been so divinely created to be born and to be stressed and to live our life paying our rent and paying our bills and then just die and that's it, end of story? No. You know, that's not our purpose. You know, our purpose is to explore the world, to be an adventure, to enjoy, to take part in this beauty that we're a part of, because we're part of nature, you
Yeah.
know. And so I love that you had that opening up for you on your own, like it was like your own journey opened that up for you to see all the things, that all the beauty that was surrounding you, and all the beauty also that you had inside, and like making that connection and allowing that to fuel your journey and to give you the inner peace that you needed for your journey.
Yeah. And but like the other thing is that it doesn't just go away, that doubt, you know. It
Right.
comes up all the time when you're trying to get to something new,
Right.
but it's like the noticing of it. Oh, there it is again. And then the intentional, okay, I'm feeling this way right now. I'm going to go for a walk because,
Yes.
you know, and just letting yourself feel that way and not making yourself wrong about the way that you feel, but
Oh,
saying, like,
yes.
this is just something that I'm experiencing at this moment in time, and I'm going to go let it pass by doing something enjoyable, or
Yes.
um, is even like taking a nap if you need it. A lot
Yeah.
of people just won't let themselves, and I'm guilty of it a lot. But sometimes I'm like, I just need to lay down. Like
Yeah.
I'm okay.
And be okay with that, because
Yeah,
the judgment, I think what you're pointing to is that the judgment is really what it's a low vibration. Bringing judgment onto ourselves brings us guilt and shame and worry and fear and all these lower vibrations that don't serve our higher purpose. So if we're judged, because sometimes we judge ourselves worse than we would judge another person. We
yeah,
speak to ourselves worse than we would speak to a complete stranger. Not saying that we should treat everyone with the highest respect, but we treat ourselves sometimes in a way that you wouldn't even talk to a friend like that. You know,
yeah,
if a friend was having a hard time, you would be like, oh, here, sit down, let me make you a cup of tea. I'm so sorry to hear what you're going through. If you're having a hard time, you're like, why'd you mess up? Why can't you get it right the next time? You did this, you did that. We're so hard on ourselves, and it really that really doesn't serve our higher purpose. So that's beautiful that you brought that into the space, because it's so important to have compassion for yourself, to treat yourself with grace, right? To say
laugh
it's
at yourself
okay.
if you need to.
Laugh
Like
at yourself. Yes.
I'm sure I know I could be pretty funny, like just silly. Like recently, I walked through the Charlotte airport, which is a pretty big airport, and I went to the bathroom. And you know, like women, they have the seat covers for women, but in Charlotte they don't have seat covers, and I always like to put the seat covers down. So I covered the toilet with toilet paper, and but the toilet was automatic flush, and so it flushed on me when I was finishing, and I pulled up my pants really fast so it wouldn't splash on me, and I got a piece of toilet paper stuck in my pants, and I didn't know. And I'm like, oh, I still have an hour left. I'm gonna just go like browse around in the stores and stuff. And so I did. I browsed around. I walked so far because I had been on the airplane so long. And I remember standing in front of this guy who was like eating, and he never said anything to me. I thought about that later on. Like that guy behind me was totally like looking at. I don't. I mean, I can't say he was looking at my butt, but that was what was in front of him.
Yeah.
He never said anything to me. So I get on the next plane. I had to climb over the guy that was sitting next to me because he didn't get up, and I sat down. So he must have seen it there. He didn't say anything. I got off the plane
Oh my
and was
gosh.
waiting for my luggage. And this couple finally said, hey, you have toilet paper hanging out of your butt.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, because I was just so in a place where I had practiced laughing at myself, I just laughed and I said, "Oh my goodness!" And it was like really long. um, and then so we had a good laugh, me and this couple, and we started chatting a little. And I'm like, "Oh, it actually made me a friend. This toilet paper, you know."
Right.
So, um, yeah, and then my day was just like, I was like so happy all day. Because I just thought, oh
Wow.
my gosh, what a funny thing that
That's
just happened.
incredible. Yes, that's incredible. That's a beautiful, that's a perfect example of what we're talking about. I hope the audience out there is really taking that in, because that's what really it's about. It's about, making fun of things, having a good time, finding the humor in things. And so I love that. And that brings me to the next question, which is, you've had a journey. You've been through, you were talking about your childhood, then, your diagnosis with cancer, then, losing your sister. You've overcome a lot of obstacles to get to where you are. And as you look back on your journey, what are some of those things that you've learned that you'll take with you into the future?
um, that all of those things that I've learned, I still don't know anything.
Mm,
Like there is this whole other, you I think I feel pretty good most days. Sometimes I get like grumpy and upset and down, but like I never thought I would feel so happy all the time. Yeah. I was always very cheery, but I underneath it, I was not, and it was more because I didn't want other people to be upset, but I wasn't genuinely happy inside. And so now I am genuinely happy inside, but I know that this isn't it either. Like there are, it just keeps going. And sometimes I get stuck, like, this must be it. How can it get any? And it's like, no, that's when you start having to trust and have faith again. Like,
mhm.
when you can't see where you're going and you want this thing, I don't even know what it is that I'm wanting. I just know that I'm wanting something more, and I'm
Uh-huh.
frustrated because whatever that thing is not here. When I
Mhm.
start feeling that, that's usually when I start feeling grumpy. Is I notice that I'm like wanting something that isn't here yet,
Uh-huh.
and when I notice that that's what's happening with me, then I remind myself like to have faith that it's all working out the way that it should be working for me. And even if I get sick with cancer again, I'm not, it's fine. And um, losing people, it's going to happen. And it hurts. It's the most painful thing ever, but you just have to have faith that it's just, that's how it's supposed to be. The world's going to keep going, and there's always going to be all of these amazing things out there, no matter what happens. So, um,
Mhm.
just knowing
Yes.
that.
Amazing. Wow. Beautiful. And lastly, and thank you so much so far. This has been such a beautiful talk. We always like to leave our viewers with some words of wisdom. So, what words of wisdom would you like to leave them, those who may be on a similar journey of you of resilience?
Um, it's a good question. uh, just your job in life is to be happy. That is your job, and it's your job because you want the world to be happy around you, and you can't expect the world to be happy around you if you're not happy,
Mm,
because you contribute to the world's happiness. And even if you think that you're not contributing in a significant enough way, just being happy is a huge contribution. Yeah. So
yes.
just eat some ice cream or something. I don't know. Do whatever it is that is just going to bring you up just a tiny little bit. Like it doesn't have to be like you go out there and do cartwheels all of a sudden, but just bring yourself up a little bit, a tiny little bit. You know, it doesn't happen overnight, but it happens eventually.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're here to show us that. You're an example of that. Thank you so much. Our job is to be happy. That's exactly it. That's exactly it. All these careers that we chase, all these things that we try to do in our lives and try to have this role or be a director of this or, accomplish this or that. It's all about being happy at the end of the day. And happy, the root word of happy is actually comes from ancient Egypt and it's HAPI and it means whole. So whenever you
Oh,
ask somebody, yeah, whenever you ask somebody, what is it that you want out of life? Everybody always says, I just want to be happy, right? We just all want to be whole.
yeah. And sorry, I know that we're running out of time, but I also, that's another thing. I have all these big goals in my life. I've always like had these big goals, and I think that that was part of what was torturing me. But also, I was making myself wrong for having those big goals because you're always told like you should just be happy with what's happening now, and you should just be happy with what's happening now. But also, you can be excited by life by having big goals, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be this billionaire if that's what your mind or your soul is wanting. Like, why not go after that? That's part of what makes your life exciting and gets you out of bed every day. So have those goals, but go out and smell a flower like at the same time. It's like, it's, yeah, you can't get to that goal and without, you can't get to that goal in a nice fashion, in an enjoyable fashion if you're not enjoying, and that goal is not great. It's, you're not going to feel good about achieving that goal if you haven't done it enjoying the journey,
En-
my dogs.
Enjoying the journey.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. 10,000%. Wow. I am blown away by you, Nui. Your story is so inspiring, and I hope it touched people out there. Whoever's listening, comment below. Let us know your questions. Give Nui some love in the comments. And we're so grateful. I'm so grateful to have you here today, Nui. This was amazing.
Thank you so much. I was getting goosebumps the whole time. Thanks for letting me just
Absolutely.
share.
What an honor. It was an honor to hear your story. And thank you for taking the time to sit down and share your story so authentically and vulnerably. Not a lot of people will do that. And you did that courageously. And your story will help a lot of people out there find the motivation to move forward and to keep going. And so powerful, powerful testimony. Thank you so much. And for
Thank
those
you,
of you
Mio.
out there, absolutely. For those of you out there, we're going to still be here for the month of May, and we're getting so much response back from people that we may move this to Instagram Live as well. So keep your eyes out for that. If you're interested in the self love program, if you're interested in doing this work and going deep inside to overcome and uproot whatever's inside you so you could live a happy, fulfilled, joyful life, join me at miosantana.com/self-love. It's an 8-week program. It starts on June 7th. If you're a woman out there, if you're going on a journey of resilience, you don't want to miss this program. Nui, it was such a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank
Guys out
you.
there, take care of yourselves, be kind to yourself, be kind to one another, and I will see you soon. I love you. Bye.